Audi Q5 front end service position. Most people are going to want to do this whenever they're doing a timing chain or a cylinder head, or maybe you need to replace the radiator, or we'll also be taking the front bumper off. Right now I'm missing my grills. I was going to get some aftermarket grills, but it just wasn't a high priority for me. So this is going to be really similar to like an A4, an A5, A6, and so on. We got this plastic panel up here. It's missing a few clips, as you can see. Even that one in the corner is gone. So we've got just 3 left right here. Looks like someone's already had this apart and put a different kind of clip in here. I've got my smaller panel bar, but I got these panel clip pliers. We're gonna give them a go. So you're just gonna, oh, look at that. These actually do the trick pretty well, because everyone struggles with these things and they always get broken. And even me, I was gonna jam this thing in there. That size isn't the right slit in the middle, and so on and so forth. But if you got the right tools, look, this is the factory clip right here. And this tool is perfect for the factory clip. See how flimsy those things are? So you started out a little bit like that, so you don't have to jam it in there, and then you can pop it up the rest of the way. Now, this is even different yet in this corner. What's this? Oh, it's the one with the one in the center. I should have known that. See how I'm just being a barbarian, using the wrong tools? What I needed, see, look, I could just scratch this right here. Of course, this is my own car and I'm working on it with one hand, but these things often get broken and lost, and I've got a whole kit and we're going to replace it whenever I go back together with it. So don't do what I just did. Don't fumble around with the wrong tools and skip and scratch and mar and things like that. Also, put your fender cover over. You can lay your tools on the fender cover after that, which is just a big shop towel. I can drape one of these towels over some components like this, and the tools can be right there in front of my face. Of course, some people would balk at that as well and say keep all your tools in your tool cart. But if you're gonna have some type of fender cover, I like using a really super soft towel like this rather than typical fender covers that they have, whether it be plastic or the shop towel type material. If you're working in a shop, you can't even take liberties like I'm taking and just lay your bare tools or skip and do something like that. Because even something like this, there's some customer that would say, they scratched my core support. You don't believe me? So once all those clips are out, it's lightly clipped in the front here, and you want to be careful. You pull it from the back like this. It kind of pops out once you get it, and you see what I'm talking about. See how flimsy those things are? Someone had already jammed it in wrong, I'm pretty sure, because that one's about ready to break off. And then, when these are super flimsy and messed up, see, these ones on the edge are the way they should be, but this one's about ready to fall off. This one's really loose. That one's kind of tight. And then we have these clips on the side. When these things, you know, someone's messing with it, they don't do it right, they jack with it, you have to put these in really carefully and slide them into place. When these teeth are loose like that, you're not getting any kind of grip in there, and then it turns into a flappy panel. No one likes flappy panels. Let's go ahead and get this air scoop out of our way. It's super easy. We just need a T20. And I like to put as many pieces of hardware back where I found them as I can. And for the sake of just doing this with one hand, I'm putting the screws somewhere for now. I also suggest having a nice little parts bin tray to divide up all your hardware. Everything that you can't put right back where you found it, put in order. And maybe I'll make another short video on that as well, but the easiest way on that is just to keep this together if you want. Very gently set that to the side. And then, like I said, we're going to take these screws here, and since these are specialty, these screws right here, the only spot for them is right here. They don't match any other part on the car. That's one thing that's kind of frustrating because there's very few things that are T20 right here. So next let's just go ahead and, this isn't really necessary either, but let's just go ahead and take the whole air box out of the way. We'll disconnect this, and rather than just laying this down here, because some people might forget to put this back on, which would instantly create a fault, all kinds of faults. But if you forget to put this back on, it can burn on your catalytic converter. But if you tuck it away, you might forget it. So don't tuck it too far away, but just put it somewhere. And then you can break that as well. I see people break this part or that part. It's plastic. And then you can just gently pull that up. And then I see people losing these grommets right here. One will get stuck in the bottom, one will get stuck in the top. Maybe it comes halfway off and falls down. And then you only have one on the bottom, and that's no good. So pay attention to that. If one gets stuck in the bottom or whatever, just put them both on the air box. And then put some lube on it whenever you put it together. Now, I normally like to take these off at the air box right here and keep this on here. That way, it's just that extra little bit of protection that you don't get junk inside the turbo when it's sitting idle. And another good idea is to take a clean, lint-free microfiber cloth and just put it in this intake pipe when you get that loose. So that's a 7mm. A lot of times I can get this loose without putting anything in here. Just give it a nice like 5 or 6 full turns, and then a lot of times I can just move this hose enough for it to come off like that. So you kind of pinch it and things of that nature, and then pull it right out of the way. See how much more room we have for activities? We got to get this thing apart because in one of my last videos I gave you a live demonstration on what it's like to lose your serpentine belt, your accessory belt. I still have some broken stuff in there we need to get to. And we're just doing this to replace things and get a better look. Plus I'm going to replace this grill and maybe some other things. We need to take this front bumper cover off, but there's a few electrical connectors. So these electrical connectors can be a little bit tricky. You hear it snap? I mean, it didn't break or anything, but I heard it dislodge from that clip right here. Sometimes you have to push it forward and then push it back and then pull it back. On this one, I could also get this connector loose right here, but you're working upside down and you can't really see it too well. And see, I can get it loose, but you can also kind of roll this home link module out of place. I like to use both hands for this, but see, you can it's clipped in right here. You can push one of the other sides and get enough room to pull it out. It's not necessary to pull these grills out, but they've got tabs in the side there all the way around, and maybe that's for a different video because I can't show you right now. But this one is also, oh, look at that, we got our oil leak down there. Got to figure that out. This one is missing the belly pan, the splash shield, and that's unfortunate because I donated it to some other car. With this splash pan removed, I should at least have some screws in the bottom of this bumper into my plastic core support, but I don't. Whenever I put this back together, I will at least put the screws that I can. This one here, we'll get to it. So that's not good that that's loose. Ultimately, I wish I did have the splash shield, but we're gonna roll without it. I'll be your experience. On the A4s, these fender wells are not very stiff. On the Q5s, the fender wells are plastic. On the A4s, and I can't remember on the A5s, they're felt. Some of the cars, they're felt. And if you don't have the support of this splash pan, then you can wear out your fender liners, especially if the clips on the inside come loose. And of course, the bottom parts of the fender liners are really floppy in that case. So I don't have this splash guard to take off to show you, but that's pretty simple. They're all T25. And we can get to this from underneath. You don't have to take these grills out. I advise you to not take them out if they're still in there very well. And if they are in there well, I advise you to try to make sure that they're all clipped in properly, because you can just hit a bump and they can come loose. The cheap ones don't fit worth squat. So it might be a little bit tricky to get back here and disconnect this wiring connector for these fog lights. You're in here trying to push this tab and pull it out, and if you stress it too much, you can damage the socket for that fog light. So I think it's actually more responsible to just go ahead and twist it out like you were replacing it. And then what you could do is you could just lay it there, but you know, if you get some grease or something on the bulb, then that could damage the bulb. Even what I'm doing right now isn't very good for it. There we go. So now we can get a better look. See the connector right here? You just simply push back and pull on it, but what are you going to use as resistance? You can't hold that socket very well. You're not going to be able to put a pair of pliers or anything on it, and you don't want to push this tab down and yank on it really hard, because that would be worse than sacrificing a light bulb if you had to. So, to be honest with you, I just kind of let them hang. Now, if you're going to unclip it, you want to hold the back of it. Don't touch this glass with your dirty man mittens. And it simply unclips like so. And someone tell me if it would be a horrible sin for this painter's tape to go on it, because I've never really tried this method, but get a clean part of your tape and then just go like this, like little flags. And then if you don't turn the car on for it to melt that tape, painter's tape comes off really easy. Tell me if I'm an idiot, because I think you could probably just get away with doing that and making little flags. If you don't have the right tools for this, this might be a little bit tricky, but on a Q5 you have tons of room. What you can do is you can turn your wheel in like this and get this side, and then you can turn your wheel out like that and get the other side. But whenever I'm doing stuff to a car, I don't like to switch the ignition on and off. So what I would probably do if I had to was I would take this wheel off and put it on a stand. But I don't have to do any of that because I've done this a couple times and I have the right tools. So you need to be careful with these power tools. If you're going the wrong way, for instance, and you put it on here, boom, you just stripped it out. This is going into the bumper. This is the plastic. You can't really easily fix this if you strip these out. And these continually get stripped out by all kinds of different technicians. Or I should say, mechanics. I'm not afraid of the word mechanic. I want to bring the word mechanic back. All these people trying to sound fancy using the word technician. This is the wrong bolt for this. This is a bolt that goes in the bottom of the bumper. I did not put that there. There's another one up here, it looks like. Come on. That's the wrong bolt as well. That goes in the bottom of the front bumper. So 1, 2, 3, we need to have our splash pan off. The biggest thing you got to look at right here is this lip in your fender. And I usually like to just slide this lip in like this. See that? And then I just let it hang. We're gonna do that on both sides. There's still a screw down here. See it down in there? We're gonna keep those in there just to make sure that the bumper doesn't fall off prematurely. Down in there. So let's get this other side fender liner loose. That one sounds stripped out. See, they put the wrong screws in there. When you put them in is when you really have to be careful about these things, because that's one of my pet peeves, is when these plastic screw holes get stripped out. Then you have to try to find a bigger, coarser screw to put in there, and sometimes it's too late. Damage is done. And we're gonna come up here and just gently give it, this is where you gotta be careful. Just gently give it some nice love pulls. Some people might try to unscrew these 10 millimeters and things like that, but really all you gotta do is just unclip it. And if you just give it some nice gentle pulls, you probably could spray some kind of dry lubricant or something up in there from the backside to help it out, because sometimes those tabs do break off, and that's disastrous. The fit and finish suffers when something like that happens. Now at this point, you could take some big roll masking tape. It would probably be smart if you're working on customer cars to pull this back a little bit, and then just put it'd be nice to have this clean first as well. And then put your big protective masking tape over these edges. Especially on some of the other cars that have studs sticking out. There's no 10 millimeter screws on this one. I like to pull these out right here. Check this out, just give it a nice little pull. And then we'll take these, I think these are T25s. Down here, try to see that in the dark. Those are actually T20s as well. Should have known that. But I don't take service position loose very often. I don't take vehicles into service position very often. I do everything without service position. Timing chains, engine pulls, everything. Only reason why I would take this loose is for like doing a radiator or intercooler upgrade or stuff like that. And what I'm doing here is I'm trying to get it like this with the screwdriver in the head of the bolt, and then I grab it with my finger and pull it straight out so I don't have to run and grab the magnet. So now, put these in a safe spot. Now we can pull this whole thing loose from the front. and preferably take this loose with both hands. Look at that. The bumper's removed. The next video we'll do more stuff. Like, comment, and subscribe if you like detailed videos. Bonus tip, the ones with these shoulders on them, the screws I said that were in the wrong spot, they actually go at the very back of the front bumper in this panel right here that screws into the core support. You see the lip of the bottom of the front bumper is what that shoulder protects. So it goes 1, 2, 3, and then 4.